and based, premised on white power and white supremacy. And so when you think about successful examples that we've had historically, such as Black Wall Street, that have been destroyed by the federal government, I'm wondering, in this situation, as much organizing that's going on related to political things, I'm wondering what type of organizing is going on related to the legalities of the situation, because again, these things happen historically, and justice isn't served to the ones who are committing the genocide. And so if they continuously engage in this cycle, that's what the narrative is. We can do this and we can get away with it. So I'm wondering legally what's happening, who's advising the community legally, and then additionally looking at the long-term effects that are bound to occur with these kids. So all of the neuropsychological things that lead poisoning causes relates to behavior problems, ADHD, etc. And so these are the kids who are sitting in classroom going from the school to prison pipeline. And these are the ones that we're going to be employing in 10, 15 years, and the ones who are ultimately going to be filling up the prison based on society's current standards of how we treat people. So, I'm wondering what's going on around all of the long-term effects and planning as well.
So I can tell you that there is much that's going on. And I want to mention this group before I share some information. The All Healers Mental Health Alliance, Mrs. D mentioned that. They contacted me, I contacted Mrs. Deloney, she contacted other folk, and the National Association of Black Social Workers. This group actually came together to work with Katrina, with New Orleans, and they have been one of those national groups that have been in the background to offer help. So we have folk in the area of law, we have all kinds of positions, we have social workers, we have psychiatrists. We've talked about, you talked about what's going to happen with the kids in the long run. One thing we've had to be very careful about, we know this, but we don't want to put our kids in a position where they give up and say, oh well, it's coming, I don't have to do anything, I'm going to be one of those folk in 10 years, so I'll just wait for it. We had to be very careful, and especially being a member of the school board and listening to my superintendent, that wasn't a message that he wanted to put out for the kids, right? So we don't want to do that, but we are aware of what could happen, and that is long term. So we are putting things in place to look for that, the screenings that are necessary.
And to answer your question more specifically, there are actual town hall meetings around the city, specifically with lawyers and attorneys that are looking at what the legal rights are and actually educating the people on law and how to address this. So there are some legal things. And I want to kind of...
And a lot of suits already.
Yeah, kind of a couple... These are the last three because I don't want Al to push us off the stage. Yeah.
Thank you. First, my name is Roberto Vargas, and I'm at UCSF, Community Engagement Health Policy Program. I want to thank you all for coming to help inform us, educate us about what's been happening in Flint. I know many of us across the nation share your sadness and anger at this injustice. I wanted to mention that in San Francisco, in order to try to address the diabetes disparities, we've been working to reduce the amount of sugar folks drink. And we went to talk to communities about what we could do to help make that happen, and folks that give us access to clean water, right? That's one of the things we heard in low-income communities and communities of color. We assume that because we've got this delicious, healthy water coming straight from Hetch Hetchy, Yosemite Valley, that everybody in the communities trust that water and have access to that clean water. What we heard in the low-income communities is folks often are living in older buildings where the pipes are rusty, and folks are seeing rust coming out of their pipes, and they don't trust public water. As a result, they buy bottled water, which we know is more expensive often than soda, etc. So we've been working to try to address that. This year we'll have 16 new hydration stations, bottle filling stations across the city, and we've really partnered with the community to make sure that they have access in their communities to hydration stations they can trust and that are in low-income communities as well. We're also working with community to help get education out about why they can trust those hydration stations. But I learned from that there were decisions made, to not have those stations in those communities first round. We're getting there. But I wanted to say that we learned from that it's important to work for an infrastructure, water infrastructure, so that folks have access in low-income communities. It's going to be very important during natural disasters, and it's just important for the long term. So I'd like to encourage folks to think about working on the water infrastructure, even if you think your city has access to great water. And we can help with that if you all are interested. But I also want to say, please tell us, and I hope you will before you wrap up, what can we do to support Flint? Is it sharing education with folks? Is it keeping folks aware this is still a struggle? Has it gone away? If you could just share that, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. And we'll get to that before you go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sheila Davis from the University of Denver. I have two questions. What were the media outlets that actually ran the stories that led to Cher's awakening about all this? I'd love to hear about that. And two, it strikes me, and I think this may be part of the strategy of the All Healers Black Alliance, Health Alliance, is that we need to have moles strategically placed in health departments, universities, throughout, so that the real story gets out. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about that.
So that trust thing that I talked about earlier, and I guess I never called it a mole, but that's exactly what it is. But we had a relationship at one time where something like this was happening, even if that person couldn't publicly say to us, my thing is, send me a carrier pigeon. I don't care how you do it, but let me know. So that mole idea of being that person, you know what you're hired to do, but if you know something is going to hurt the city, you find a way to let folks know. And even understanding that there are things that you might not be able to say that I can say. Get me the information. You can't sit on it. So you're exactly right.
And before the next question, I'd like to just to add on to that. We've always had that system. The former Genesee County Health Officer, before the current one, Bobby Pestrock, who went on to be over NACHO, if it was something that he could not say politically, he called his community partners in and told us what to say, and we advocated, and vice versa. So there were those types of relationships. But as directors change and administrations change, then you have to rebuild those same type of relationships, and apparently that was not the way the current health officer operates. Yes.
Yeah, so Jacoby again, it's good to see Mr. Loney, Coach Ella. My comment question, how has using language of environmental racism and environmental classism, we heard environmental terrorism, I talk about environmental slavery, to get to we're having real talk, how has the movement, been, has there been a shock to the movement for folks to wake up around these issues in the community? Is one question. The second question is, when it gets to the infrastructure issues, how has the funding come down to help with getting folks who may not have the money to actually, there's two parts of the line for folks who don't know. There's the public line that can be covered by the local agency, and there's the private line that the homeowner has to cover. And so if you got a lot of folks who don't have the money to cover the cost of the private line, even if they hook up and fix this part, you still may have lead in the private line. So the big issue is, where are the monies that to make sure people who've been left behind for years, who were underserved for years, to make sure they don't have to pay that, they don't have to get a loan, it needs to be covered. So where's the Office of Water, where's the federal funding, where's the state funding to address the private line part of it?
That is what my fight, and a couple, it's about 6 of us, who've been upsetting these agendas. I took a list of every $100,000 that come into Flint.
That's right.
And asked them, do you not think we have people to help us You have not put any money in our community. Not only we being poisoned, we've been economically lynched.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not giving us any funds to help us. I'll read the statement I had later on. I did have the opportunity when I met the president to meet the governor. Because everybody who they invited was in one session. I don't know how I got there, I said, but I was there. The governor was right there in front of me. I walked up to him, lifted his hand. He wouldn't reach his hand to me. I reached his hand and shake his hand and said, my name is E. Hilden, and I want to meet with you on the next coordinated meeting because funds are not coming into Flint for black people. And what I told the man at the Genesee Health Clinic, you don't even recognize the fact that slavery still has on us, and you talk about the post-traumatic stress disorder. DMZ, all the research people have done on it, will not put it in their books. So we got to fight. Where the money is going, it's going to all these people I'm talking about, and we're left out of the money. That's what I let the president know, the governor know, and I said, everyone in meeting, they want to put me out, but I'm going to be going. I'll get back that money, tired of I'm going right back to that. But I will say this, William White was in that same room, who is the head of the Stewart Law Foundation. And I want to make sure he heard what I said. I talked about that, and I also said we don't have community engaged in anything. Now, somebody sent me an email and said they heard you. I don't know if they heard me or not, but what he did have, and the next thing that came out was community engagement. But all the things we're doing out of our pocket. We are stressed for money, but I will say when people want to help you, they will. Dr. Key just talked about Michigan sending us here to this. I'm from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. But their leader of Michigan took $5,000 out of his pocket and gave it to me so I could help kids, people who helping people with bottles, going to or elderly people's home, to have money to help them and pay the little kids who done, he gave me that. Plus, one of the young ladies in there took up a collection in her Michigan unit and took up some money, and she just left now. Mrs. Whitney wrote a personal check on her. People who have empathy, but he didn't have to do it. He had known me, what, a month? Not much more than a month, but he's very supportive. But the money that we should come in, for example, we told him about the racism. We told him we could have workshops ourselves and hire people to do just what we're doing here. We got this is one of the most egregious environmental injustices you want to see. But now they gonna heal and tell me how to heal myself. But they don't, and we got CBOs now who have had $5 million budget, so they can't say we don't have experienced people. And Odyssey itself has one of the top ones in the country, as well as the only forensics county in Genesee County on our board. So they don't want respect, and the communities are invisible people.
So also to add to that, just so you know, the fight about the allocations of money, Genesee County is predominantly European American. Flint is predominantly African American, but it's the largest city in Genesee County. Typically, even before the water, even growing up, as long as it's a good thing, it's the county. But if it's a bad thing, it's Flint. So when the water crisis happened, oh, that's Flint, we're in the county. We don't have that problem. Because the county's water system didn't change, only Flint's water didn't change. But once monies was being, broadcast or was cut out, now, it's the county. So, for example, a lot of the monies for schools was going to the out-county schools as opposed to going to the Flint community schools. So these are the types of things that we're dealing with.
Wait a second. So one quick follow-up. So I'm on the National Environmental
You're going to beat me up.
Yeah.
You want to say that?